tasya kinanjana salakaya chakshurulmitam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Today I was inspired to meditate on the concept of dīkshā, initiation, after hearing my beloved Srila Sadhu Maharaj yesterday in his class. He was very much putting focus on the concept and the process of dīkshā. So even in material life, when we want to educate ourselves, when we want to have some kind of education, we go through someone. We go through a mentor, a professor at the university, at the college, at high school, wherever we want to educate ourselves about a subject matter, medicine, law, whatever field of science you want to choose, you need to educate yourself and you need to follow a teacher. You need to take shelter of someone who knows more about the profession than you. So, and in the spiritual concept, it is exactly the same and even more so. The concept of dīkshā actually is something very similar, that we want to enter a realm where we have no experience, where we have no qualifications. Our only qualifications is the eagerness to enter that realm, and wandering millions of years through the universe, we finally may have the chance to arrive at the point where we meet a bona fide Gurudev, a bona fide spiritual master, who himself follows his spiritual master, who also follows his spiritual master, in an unbroken traditional parivar, which is called a tradition of masters going back up to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was here on this planet. And these teachers, they all give down this beautiful fruit of divine knowledge. And one after the other gives this divine knowledge to their students, to the sadhakas. So we are the sadhakas, and we are eager to receive that glorious fruit coming down from our spiritual master, from who got it from his spiritual master, who got it from his spiritual master, and so on and so forth. So this dīkshā process actually is very, very important. It is the most important aspect in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is said, Guru Padashraya, Dīkshā, Guru Sevana, and Srila Rupa Goswami, he is starting his Bhakti Rasamrita, the 64 angas of Bhakti, exactly with these 3 points. First of all, we should take shelter at the lotus feet of our Gurudev, of a bona fide Gurudev. We should receive mantra initiation, dīkshā from Sri Gurudev, and we should serve him with full faith. So this dīkshā, Srila Jiva Goswami is saying that actually this dīkshā means divya jnana, divine knowledge. In Bhakti Sandarbha, he elaborates on that concept of divya jnana. So the Sri Guru is passing on the divine mantras. Mostly, which is most important, are the Krishna mantras, Gopal mantra and Kam Gayatri, and those 2 mantras, my beloved Gurudev is writing in Guru Tattva, that those 2 mantras, especially the Krishna mantra, Gopal mantra, is very, very important, because within that mantras, especially within the Gopal mantra, all the relationships are there in Vrindavan, in Madhurya Ras. And for Manjari Bhav Sadhakas, who have taken shelter of a Gurudev, who is in the same mood, who is in the same Snigdha Sajati mood as a man, who himself is practicing Manjari Bhav sadhana, we have taken shelter at his lotus feet, and we receive those mantras from him, imbued with his beautiful bhav, imbued with his beautiful knowledge, imbued with his beautiful strength. It is not that we are forced to accept the bhav of someone else. No, it is helping, it is like a blessing, it is like a grace flowing straight into our heart from the heart of Sri Gurudev. It is a transmission from heart to heart through our ears. And these mantras enter in our heart, and it is said that actually those mantras are non-different from the mantra dev, from the Ishtadev of the mantra. So Krishna is entering into our hearts by the mercy of the voice of Gurudev, who received these mantras from his Gurudev, and so on and so forth. So these mantras will take root in our hearts and will transform our spiritual beings, will transform us into spiritual beings, and will also make us starting our spiritual journey towards spiritual perfection, Svarupa Siddhi. So this Divya Jnana, Jiva Goswami is saying, this knowledge which enters into our heart through the lips of our most beloved Gurudev, Srila Jiva Goswami is writing, the compound Divya Jnana, divine knowledge, means knowledge of Bhagavan's constitutional identity, Bhagavat Svarupa Jnana, and knowledge of one's own specific relationship with him, Bhagavat Sambandha Vishesha Jnana, transmitted through a mantra. This is explained in the Uttarakhanda and other portions of Padma Purana in relation to the 8-syllable mantra. So, here it is clearly said that divine knowledge, Divya Jnana, means knowledge of the divine couples' identities, Shri Radha and Krishna, and this is also very important, knowledge of one's own specific desired relationship with Radha and Krishna. Here we have this specific relationship, and as Manjari Bhav Sadhakas, this means that Gurudev is transmitting this mantra, through this mantra, our specific relationship with Sri Krishna and Radha as Manjaris. So when we receive dīkshā mantras, Divya Jnana, from a guru in Manjari Bhav, we also receive that beautiful mercy through the lips of Sri Gurudev, and in these mantras, everything is there so that we can develop our sadhaka deha and our siddha deha. Our siddha deha will start to become more and more manifest in our heart when we clean our heart by Manjari Bhav sadhana and by meditating on the dīkshā mantras given by our beloved Gurudev. These mantras will reveal in our heart the relationship we so much desire for Radha and Krishna in our form as Manjaris. This is very, very beautiful. Knowledge of Radha and Krishna for us in Vrindavan, in the Nikunjas, and knowledge and jnana, and also then this jnana will go on to vision, divya darshan. We will have this vision when we move on and go through the stage, and we will be blessed with that vision of our specific relationship towards Srimati Radhika as Manjaris. Make it clear like that. So in that mantras, everything is given to us in seed form by Gurudev, and we water it by our endeavor and by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and Guru. This can grow in ourselves, and these mantras can take root in our heart and reveal to us our eternal relationship to Shri Radha and Krishna in our Manjari form. This is the blessing of Dīkshā. This is Divya Jnana. Srila Jiva Goswami then goes on to say that that actually there are two ways of translations for this verse in the Bhakti Sandarbha. This was 283. Now Srila Jiva Goswami is giving us very, very nice, important meaning on the mantra itself and how to meditate on. In Bhakti Sandarbha 312, he's saying, some devotees, while meditating on the 18-syllable mantra, visualize Sri Krishna surrounded by his entire entourage of associates who are completely captivated by the sound of his flute at the time of milking the cows. Others contemplate as follows: I meditate that such mantra worship has been taught by my beloved Guru to me, whom I see directly as a particular resident of Vrindavan, in our case as our Guru Manjari. to bring to the state of perfection, to help us become perfected, the perfection, the specific bhav and service for which I aspire. Yet I am directly serving Brajendrananda and Sri Krishna. So this mantra worship, this dīkshā mantra process, as taught by my Gurudev, who I see directly as a resident of Vrindavan, as a manjari of Swamini, as my Guru Manjari, this will bring the sadhaka to the stage of perfection. Siddhi, what perfection? Of the specific path and service for which the sadhaka I aspire. Jiva Goswami clearly saying it's very important that what we desire when we approach our Gurudev. We don't approach anyone just for any matter. We need to have this eagerness to become kinkaris, to become manjaris, and dīkshā from such a beloved Gurudev in the same mood as a manjari bhav sadhaka, manjari bhav guru. This will reveal in our heart our own specific bhav and service. This is how you meditate on these mantras. Kling Krishnaya Govindaya Gopichana Vallabha and the Kam Gayatri mantra. Both are so powerful that they can bestow us this wonderful, wonderful gift, that our specific relationship, Jiva Goswami is saying here, this specific bhav and service, this is what Rupa Goswami is saying, Seva, Sadhaka Rupena, and Siddha Rupena, Chatrahi, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Each of us has a desire for a very particular bhav, and we have to follow that particular resident of Vrindavan who has the same mood like we have. And as manjari bhav sadhakas, we have our Gurudev, who is a manjari of Radhika, and we follow his footsteps. We are in with him, with Guru Manjari all the time, and when we receive dīkshā mantra from our beloved Gurudev, all this perfection in seed form is imbued into our heart. Krishna enters into our heart as the Ishtadev, and Radhika as the Ishtadev of all these mantras, and we can then travel on our journey to perfection by our sadhana and by the mercy of Gurudev and the Vaishnavas. This is very, very wonderful process. It takes root in our hearts. We have to make the heart a wonderful container. We have to be very careful not to let any of this power slip out by offenses or by negligence. So we have to be very strong in our sadhana. We have to be very careful that we understand the concept of dīkshā every day. For me also, it is very important not to do this mechanically, but to see this time when we sit down and when we chant the dīkshā mantras. It is like a private audience. People are going crazy for private audiences in the material world, for the Pope, for the King, for famous persons, YEP meetings for thousands and thousands of euros. But as sadhakas, as manjari bhav sadhakas, we have to sit down and chant these dīkshā mantras, visualizing the Ishtadev of the mantra. And we are allowed to have a private audience by sound vibration, by meditating on the sound vibration of that mantra. We have a private audience of that deity, of Krishna, of Radha, of whatever dīkshā mantras our Gurudev is giving to us. We have a private audience in that moment. And we have to be very careful to be attentive and to use this time very, very nicely and focus on each word and try to make a pipeline. This is said in the mental realm, that the more you think about something, the more you will attract this particular thing. So when we do dīkshā mantras, we establish every day, we establish this pipeline to these Ishtadevs. Radhika, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, whatever dīkshā mantra you chant, there's always one person you are addressing. And that is this private audience we have as manjari bhav sadhakas with these dīkshā mantras, imbued by the glorious love and compassion of our Gurudev. This is such a high gift. I have to remind myself every day that We should not take these Diksha mantras for granted and we noodle them down and we just utter them and go on with our daily life. No, we have to remind ourselves that those mantras are the most important gift we have received, next to the japa, next to the holy name. But without the Diksha mantras, it will be very, very difficult. Another reading of this verse is also very interesting. Both aim at the same conclusion. There is another possibility of translation. Here it is said that I meditate that such mantra worship, Diksha mantra, has been taught by my beloved Guru to me, whom I envision directly as a particular resident of Braja, our Guru Manjari, to bring to the state of perfection, my perfection of the specific path for which I aspire. So therefore I do this mantra meditation instructed to me by Gurudev, that I can see him as a Guru Manjari helping me become also a Guru Manjari and perfect my aspirations. But it can also be read, Sanskrit is very nice language. In this Bhagavatam there is one verse where it is said that Krishna will bestow the Siddha Deha to the devotees, but also can be translated that each of the devotees has a particular form of Krishna he worships. So there is many layers of meanings, and here is another form of meditation about this wonderful verse. So Jiva Goswami, this is the alternate translation. Some, while remembering the Diksha mantra, meditate on the pastimes of tending cows and playing flute, becoming attracted and absorbed in them. So when we meditate on Kling Krishnaya, Govindaya, Gopijana Vallabha, all rasas are in that beautiful Diksha mantra. And for us, Manjari Bhav Sadhakas, Gopijana Vallabha, the lover of Radhika. This is our meaning, the beloved of Radhika. This is our meditation. Though the one who makes Radhika fall in love every day. This is our Krishna, the lover of Radhika. And now this is a very interesting alternate translation. In such upasana, in such Diksha mantra worship, in such meditation on the Diksha mantras, in order to attain my specifically desired perfection, similar like the other one, I want something very specific, Manjari Bhav, I should meditate on that very form of a resident of Braja my beloved Gurudev has instructed me in. So here we have a different translation. Both aim at the same point. One is saying that we have Gurudev as a specific resident in Vrindavan, as a Guru Manjari, but it can also be translated that this specific resident of Vrindavan has instructed me as a specific resident of Vrindavan, as a Manjari. So clearly this is wonderful to see that there is this transmission, this exchange of love, compassion, and that this nourishes our identity as Manjaris. But the Diksha mantras, especially Krishna mantras, Gopal mantra and Kam Gayatri, some receive also Radha mantra, some receive many mantras. So specifically Gopal mantra and Kam Gayatri, there is everything the sadhaka needs. Everything is inside both of that mantras. And it is very important that we know how and why we do this worship, this Diksha Smaranam, it is also called Smaranam. We close our eyes and we speak in our mind the mantra and we meditate on that mantra in our specifically desired form as Manjaris, when we address Krishna, when we address Radhika. When we do the Diksha mantras, it's like a private audience, a private session, you can say, with that deity, with Radha, with Krishna. We sit there and we have now the time to communicate with them through the mantras Gurudev has given to us. And we have to make our heart strong by humility and eagerness and seriousness and careful. We worship these mantras every day so that our heart can stay a stable container. Because when Krishna enters into our heart through these mantras, it should be a good container. I know for myself, when the heart is not a fit container, it is very difficult, my experience. So we have to be very careful to understand the concept of dīkshā. And finally, the process of dīkshā is done when we realize our svarup, when we realize our eternal form, which is mentally conceived in the process, which is revealed to us by Shri Gurudev in our parivar. Some parivars, the spiritual body will be revealed by the holy name, by Krishna himself, by another advanced devotee. Many ways the Siddha Deha can be revealed in our tradition. Shri Gurudev is revealing to us the Siddha Deha, and we meditate on. Srila Gurudev considers the time and the place. He said, my Gurudev is writing, the specific goal of the sadhaka is to receive dīkshā mantras from Shri Guru, whose heart has melted with compassion because of the careful service rendered by the sadhaka. In this way, the sadhaka can be blessed with the ability to taste the sweet nectar of true bhajan. It should also be noted here that extraordinarily powerful persons, Mahapurushas, can judge the worthiness of a disciple just by looking at him. So when the sadhaka is eager and eagerly approaching Shri Gurudev for dīkshā, Shri Gurudev checks the heart of the disciple, and it can be done in 5 weeks, it can be done in a year, it can be done in 1 second. According to the ability of Shri Gurudev, he sees the eligibility of the disciple. He then may bestow the dīkshā mantras, and from that point on, Divya Jnanam is this starting point where Krishna enters into the heart and transforms our whole identity and the starting point of our journey towards spiritual perfection. This is a very important point, that the Shri Gurudev alone, he decides when the disciple, the sadhaka, is fit and qualified to receive dīkshā mantras, and when he is revealing and giving this present, this gift of these holy mantras, we should very carefully practice dīkshā smaranam every day without fail, as good and as attentive as we can. And we should always think, we have now a private audience. When you chant the holy name, you are with Krishna. When you chant the dīkshā mantras, you are also with Krishna. These are very important times, and I'm preaching also to my mind here, because he takes all these things sometimes for granted. But we should be very clear, it is not for granted, it's an extraordinary gift in this Kali Yuga to be able to receive dīkshā mantras from a guru who is Manjari Bhav, which is Unatotjvala Rasa Swabhakti Shriyam. It was never given before, these mantras. With that specific, they have been given before, these mantras, but not with that specific relationship towards the divine couple as Manjaris of Srimati Radhika. This is the extraordinary gift of Mahaprabhu. This is what happens when you get initiation, Dīkshā mantra initiation from Guru, who is in the line of Mahaprabhu in Manjari Bhav. This is extraordinary, and we should treat those mantras extraordinarily. So this was what I wanted to share. All glories to the Vaishnavas. Dandarat Pranam. Jai Ho.